Hey guys, Max19, welcome to another tryout. Today's tryout is on Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. The video game one, obviously.
Hey, that's the wrong one. Get that off the screen right now. You know we're talking about the new Guardians of the Galaxy game. Like, I'm sure that one's fine, but we didn't play it, so get off... Yeah!
At this point, I sort of waited too long to actually pick up and try this game that I've kind of been spoiled on some of the later story elements. I'm assuming it changes a little bit because there are some narrative choice aspects, but I do know, like, a late game, like a super late game twist and some of that kind of stuff, but I wanted to play it anyway because I heard good things and wanted to actually check it out for myself. So I've just pretty recently got it, and I've been playing it. Played it once for a few hours. I made it to the second chapter, and I think that put me at about 2-ish hours. One of the first things I noticed that the voice acting was a little hit or miss for me.
No wonder you couldn't hear me. Is that your new tape? Star-Lord. Who's the guy with the scary eyes?
He doesn't have a name. He's one of the Space Riders. And he's not scary, he's cool.
Your Space Rider certainly got his hands full.
Some characters, they so far haven't totally sounded the way that I want them to or expect them to, and some other things where like the performances just feel a little bit off in ways that are probably like direction and, you know, just like casting choice. Not even like a problem with the actor's ability to act. At the same time, it's fine. It's not like totally pulling me out of it. As I played more, the main cast's voices have settled a bit more with me, and I've been a bit less weird feeling about them. I mean, it's kind of hard coming directly from, you know, the MCU films and having seen those particular iteration of those characters and hearing those particular iteration of those characters for such a long time at this point. I don't remember exactly when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, but I feel like it was a long time ago, like 2013, maybe? I'll put the thing on screen so that so you can see what it was. I don't remember, but so it's like you have those particular voices in your head and you're sort of expecting them, and then these characters, some of them looking pretty similar to their MCU counterparts, have a different voice, and it's like, this isn't exactly what I'm expecting. But it seems like even their characterizations might be a twinge different from what we're seeing in the MCU, though the whole whatever has been shifted to sort of fit within the ideas of that MCU counterpart. So that's a thing that comics do, is they like sort of fold the comic versions into a form of their adaptation for one reason or another, for like congruency, for marketing purposes. But I'm rambling about voice acting, so we're just gonna move on to the next point. I feel like I also noticed a couple situations where animations were a little off in some way. I only really remember one time right now, but I feel like there might have been a couple, and if I remember what they are, I'll put them on screen so that you can see them and maybe make your own judgments about that. But it's just sort of something felt a little off with some of those animations. But I think overall, it's a very pretty game. You know, the game looks good, lots of colors, very vibrant, and it has its way of like standing out despite just sort of being another game with a style of realism going on. They do a lot with the colors and the settings and the way that those are put together to make it feel unique even within a relatively common type of art style. Getting into more of like the gameplay side of things, the combat so far has been fine. I've not gotten to do too much of it. Chapter 2 was basically devoid of combat. I've only really played what was in Chapter 1, and that was fine. It's very, you know, I'm still at the early stages of this, and it seems like there's upgrades, abilities, and things that will make combat become more and more fluid and intuitive as time goes on. But as it's starting out, it's fine. It's good enough for a starting point, and I don't really have any qualms with it at the moment that I really noticed. It's just sort of like, yeah, this is acceptable, pretty much. The controls might be a little iffy, and I'll have to maybe look into seeing if I can adjust the controls to fit a style that better fits the way that I play the game. But, you know, that's something that, as long as the game has the options to do so, can be fixed by the end user. So it's not like that big a deal. On the flip side of what this game seems to be doing, which is this third-person action and adventure game with a somewhat narrative focus, the narrative side is interesting. It has these sort of like Telltale-esque, like, person will remember that type pop-ups when you make choices and do these sorts of things. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes of all of this as the story progresses and how your choices sort of affect the way that the story goes on. I imagine that there's one ending. This doesn't seem like a game, from what I understand, that has multiple endings, but it does seem like that potentially the path you take to get to the ending can differ a decent amount depending on the choices you make along the way. So far, the thing that I've seen that might be the biggest sort of change is basically whether or not you hide the space llama or the tech that Rocket finds while in the first chapter, and that seems to potentially have a very diverging part in this story that could change something down the line. I'm interested to see if these narrative choices actually pay off in any way as you play the game, and like in a significant way, because it can be kind of hit or miss with games that have these sort of focused types of narratives where you're making choices. It can be hit or miss, like I said, as to whether those really do anything in the end in a game that's not solely built around them. It's going to be interesting to see, like I said, where it all goes by the time we get to that ending and how the path has changed for me compared to other players as we go across that. And then my last point here is just talking about like the amount of licensed stuff that I've seen so far in this game. And some of it's just like, oh hey, Disney owns these things, so they can just sort of be here without worry. Like there's a Chewbacca toy that shows up in like a kind of major cutscene that is directly referenced as a thing in the universe. There's a Tron poster on young Peter Quill's wall, which I was like, man, I love Tron, that's cool. Love to see it. In addition to that, there's just like almost 30 licensed songs in the game that can be activated as a part of your normal combat stuff. It seems like there's a concept called a huddle, which I only did once so far, that seems to be a way to sort of like do like a damage boost or something. Like a thing. I failed the one that I did. I chose the wrong speech, but it still like plays a licensed song over that, and I can't really show you it, but I believe it was Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up in that instance. But other songs I've heard like Kickstart My Heart, I've heard The Final Countdown, you know, there's all of these like 80s hits just sort of floating around in this game that give it, you know, the vibe that the movie has to an extent. It's steeped in that sort of like 80s subculture stuff. In addition to the licensed music, they also made like this full, like, I think it's like an 8 or 9 track sci-fi metal album by an in-universe band called Star-Lord, which Peter Quill takes his name, his superhero name after. The album is called Space Rider. You can listen to it online. I think some of the music in this video will probably be that. I don't care if it gets copyright claimed. It's too late for that at the point that I would be uploading it, but doesn't really matter. We're sort of at the end bits here. Not quite though. I have to give the game a rating, and I think the game passes its tryout. I have been wanting to play more, but I have a feeling it's not the longest game, so I don't want to like play it all before I've got the video out, basically. I might do a wrap-up on it. My wrap-ups schedule, I mean, I've got a couple games in the pipeline that I've finished that I need to make videos on for wrap-ups, so I don't know if I want to toss another one in, but I might do a wrap-up on it. We'll see, and maybe it'll end up in a Bites, the next one, whenever that happens. I don't know. So that's really, I think, all I had to say about Guardians of the Galaxy. So let's get to the end bits here. If you go down to the description, find a beacons.ai link that'll take you to all my places, like my Patreon, Bandcamp, Redbubble, etc. Click the link, go to those places, do what you do there. Like the video if you like, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe if you want to keep with this and other shows. I'm mostly doing this right now, but like I said, got a couple wrap-ups that I'm in the process of, various other things that I'm slowly working on all the time. So subscribe, you'll be able to see those when they come out, hopefully. Leave a comment. Have you played the Guardians of the Galaxy game? What did you think? Do you have a favorite Guardians of the Galaxy movie, a favorite run on the comic? I've not really read much of the Guardians of the Galaxy comics. The current run looks like it could have been interesting, but I didn't really get in on it. So, thoughts, leave them in the comments, share the video, do the things, and everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!